It's interesting to me. I did not realize that when I started at DFW, 856,000 tons of cargo goes through DFW. 856,000 tons. That's going through DFW. And then I thought for sure, I was like, oh, Eric, you're full of poo. That stuff just can't be true. So one day I was actually out on the end of the east runways, and we were looking at the airfield lighting. We're working on a project with that. And so I started counting the planes. So there's 2 American planes for every 4 cargo planes. UPS, FedEx, Cathay Pacific, Atlas. And the Atlas and the Cathay Pacific are the ones that bring in the majority of MacBooks and iPhones to the United States. So it's kind of interesting to think about that. We're third for operations. I didn't do it, wasn't me.
I did it.
That number is low right now, especially with FIFA coming. We'll probably be up in the up to 90 million passengers go through DFW. Yes, we have 7 runways, but we can actually have 8. There's space to build an 8th. But last but not least, this is what really blows me away. So the size of DFW is the same size as Manhattan.
Wow.
So it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It actually was kind of funny on that valve I was telling you all about. I was like, well, it's on the north side. And I was like, okay, so when I'm heading home, I'll swing by and look at it. And they're like, well, it's going to take you about 20 minutes to get there. And I'm like, no, full crap, 20 minutes? Really? Seriously? Like, yeah, it's going to take you 20 minutes. So by the time I left the south side of DFW and drove all the way through, 30 minutes later, because I hit construction, I actually got to the valve. So anyway.
You forgot to mention that we have 3 cemeteries and 1 dinosaur.
3 cemeteries?
3 cemeteries and 1 dinosaur.
The dinosaurs are going through.
Yeah, right? 3 historic dinosaurs buried.
I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Which one? All right, Chris, we're recording this now. Right. Anna, can you introduce yourself and start the?
So it's funny that because I'm moving to this one right here. So, okay, I have this, there's a slide on the appendix all about me, blah, blah, blah. Go to LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is me, okay? So I don't normally do this, but stepping off plane, it was 25 degrees outside. I'm in a meeting room, 5 different antiviruses, patching, passwords. Can anybody figure out what this is? It's red, by the way. It's a big Target kind of thing. It's red. Do y'all remember when Target got breached? So I was working for Pepsi, and Monica Brinza was my boss. And I was working also with Sarah Andrews. Now you got to remember, Diesel Boy. I went through Frito-Lay. I worked on the warehouse. Then the Microsoft worked on drivers. I got actually hired at Frito-Lay because I knew this language called OS2. Not everybody jump at once. But I knew OS2, I knew Windows NT. I also knew this other archaic thing called the AS400. Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. There's always one mainframer in the family. As a matter of fact, does anybody know Danny Williams? Danny Williams is the guy that works at IBM, worked on Zscaler AS400. He's the only guy I've ever known in my entire life that can go from base 16 to 8 in binary while he's coding on the fly. So anyway, all right, so here we go. So anyway, I was actually working on an incident at Pepsi. I had actually was getting ready to move from the Windows group into the Unix group, supporting their AIX infrastructure. But I was working on this call, and the reason why they got me on the call was because DFW showed up again. Hey, Danny, how's it going? We were sitting there working on this, and it was a website. And what was funny about this website is everybody told me it's a Tomcat issue. It's one of your AIX boxes. I'd only been on the team for 2 weeks. So I was like going, sure, yeah, whatever. But anyway, so got on the call, was listening to them. And Sarah came to me and said, hey, tomorrow you're gonna be on a plane. We're gonna go to Minnesota. We're going to Target. And so I was like, why does this website have to deal with Target? I don't understand. Just fix it, bring it back up, get the business rolling. Okay, so we got it figured out, restored it to the website. Here I was sitting on this plane, and I got off the plane, and it was 25 degrees, and I'd only brought a sweatshirt. It's freezing my butt off. It was cold, it was snowing, it was like living in Colorado again. So we drove out to their headquarters at Target. We went into this room, and it was all windows. You could actually see everybody working, and you could see all the different screens and all the different pieces. And suddenly the windows all went dark. They had that automatic system where they could change the windows and they'd all be dark. And they go, well, the reason why we brought you here today is because we think that the people that deface the website are connected with our breach. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's how I got into security, was the fact that started working with them, found out that they had 5 different antiviruses running. Nobody knew who was updating what. Nobody knew what was happening. There was no patching. As a matter of fact, the one machine that they could lay hands on hadn't been patched for over 4 years. And finally, they were on the guest network. So what they had done was were sitting in a store. They had figured out that if they went to this store, they could get on the guest network. And if they could get on the guest network, they could traverse over to the AD. And then from the AD, they could go to their mainframe. And from their mainframe, they could go into all their automation systems. And they were in all of these systems within 3 days. So they went in there and they were doing all this stuff. So what they were talking about is they were trying to figure out if what they were doing at Target, if they were using our websites as a way to basically send their message. But I got into this because of this. This is the reason why I got into this, is because I found it fascinating that there were people out there that weren't doing good things, because that's what the internet was all about. We were sharing, we were shaking hands. I was meeting people in Poland. I found some lost relatives, and it was amazing. No, these people are using it for bad. As a matter of fact, they took over Target so hard that they shut down their commerce systems for like 4 weeks. But nobody really knew about it because they stood up another system, they got things running, the world was moving forward. But it was just amazing to me that you could do all this. And what really amazed me was over here on their automation system, this is back in early 2000, that they were basically taking 5 kilobytes and they were using that as their repo for software. Because they didn't want anybody to see what they were doing over here. So they park all their stuff over here in this little big box. And then they would start attacking, take over boxes. And that's how they did it. But anyway, that's what got me into it. So that's who I am. I'm into all this stuff. I like figuring out why bad people do bad things. So today I'm here to talk about what I've learned and what I've done. I'm not going to tell you how to set up your network. I'm not going to tell you how to build your server. I'm not going to tell you how to make things beautiful. And I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. But I'm here to talk about people. Let's nail the basics. So I can tell you one of the things when I stepped into DFW with Eric was like, I don't know about this OT thing, and I don't know, I think we have like 50,000 devices, and I just welcome to DFW. Okay, thank you. So one of the first things that we are starting to work on right now is getting visibility. We're actually trying to get our arms around to figure out where all the devices are at, where all the pieces are. So that's one of the things that, we need to start thinking about, because it's a basic thing. It's a basic idea that we should be doing every day. Do I know where everything is? Do I know where all the pieces are? The other thing too, IRF, if your incident response plan, you should know it. I don't know how many places I've walked into during an incident and I've stood there and said, where's your incident response plan? And everybody was like, you don't have one. It's like, oh, okay. Well, let's start here. Let's start figuring out what's wrong. Let's start figuring out what part of the business is shut down. Let's start figuring out all these different pieces. So, y'all measuring your KPIs? Okay, that's another thing too. We got to start nailing from the basics. You got to basically be able to know, you got to know your baseline. And that's what we're struggling with here at DFW right now, is understanding our baseline. We think we actually get our baseline. We also know our visibility. We kind of know what our firmware version is. No, it's an evergreen process. You got to constantly do it. New things are always entering the network. That's the reason why you have to have governance to figure out how do you put something new into the system. And I know somebody can be asking, I see head shaking, like, how do I know when something new shows up? Well, change is good, but also too, how good your visibility kind of goes back to how often are you scanning and how fast are you getting in there and taking a look at stuff. And the big thing you're going to learn about nailing the basics, got to have support. I can tell you right now, I've been in 5 shops where working on stuff and we're working on an instant plan and I go, we really need to turn the server off. They are in here. They are living in here. We've got to turn. I can't turn it off. What do you mean we can't turn it off? Well, it's running all of our comments. Okay, you guys got a separate system, right? No, this is it. You don't have a backup that we could recover and build a new system to? No. We can't turn it off. No. Okay. Then I don't know what we're going to do. And then we've had to have those hard conversations and ask people, hey, what are we going to do here? How are we going to do this? We've got to get these people out. So that's what I'm going to just talk about today, is getting some of these basics down. I know it's not popular, it's not cool, but
you're speaking my language. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'll start today.
So here, let's change it up real quick. This is from my oil and gas days.
Oh, sweet.
For Jeopardy, what city in the United States has the most pipe underneath it?
Norman. New York.
You're close with Norman. Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City has the most pipe underneath it. And it's kind of funny because when I was in oil and gas and we were doing pipes up in Utah, everything was going back to Oklahoma City. You may ask, why is Oklahoma City? There's also other places around ConocoPhillips that also is pretty high on the pipe list. The reason why is because the majority of brokering for oil and gas is done in Oklahoma. So the oil and the gas is going to come in, they're going to do what they need to do, turn around and send it back on the pipes. So, when Colonial went down and everybody was all, end of the world. Well, no, it really wasn't the end of the world, because in Oklahoma, they were already switching it and it was going up through Minnesota, or it was going across these other places. They were able to move it around, but it's because of how everything was centralized in Oklahoma that we can actually move our oil and gas all over the United States. So there you go. All right. How many people change their passwords? And why don't you change your password?
Because I have 2 pages worth of passwords to keep up with.
Do you have a password vault?
I do not.
Okay.
I have my passwords encrypted.
Well, I still love you as a person. All right. Who else doesn't change their passwords? And why don't you change your passwords? You know why? Go ahead.
I don't. I use a big word, but I've got a billion passwords.
Exactly. We have all these different passwords. We're also human. You guys love, yeah.
LastPass.
LastPass. There you go. But we're human. We have habits. Come on. I get up in the morning. I make coffee. I talk to my wife. I yell at my kid. I read the newspaper, and I go to work. That's my habit. I've done it that way for 50 years now. Well, actually, no, 22. That's how long I've been married. But, habit. We're in habits. Hey, by the way, bad people love that you guys have habits. Because they get one password, they're golden. It's I was on this incident, and this is the reason why I have these keys down here. It's because I was on this incident, and we were sitting there, and it started out as one server was down. We got called in because 2 servers went down. Then 3 servers were down. and then the whole inventory system was down, and we were actually this close to being ransomed. As a matter of fact, it was the best phone call I ever got in my entire life. I was laying underneath the golf cart, my mother-in-law's, and I was trying to figure out why the batteries weren't connected. Phone rings, put it on speaker, I'm still going. And the guy I was working with at the time, his name was Steve, he goes, "Do you know Russian?" And I'm like, no, let's go to Google. I bet you Google knows Russian. And he's like, "I got a server here in front of me, the whole screen's full of Russian. And I don't know what's going on." I'm like, "Well, let's just turn it off." So, and the reason why I'm going this direction with this whole conversation is that was their server that they brought in, that they built, and then they went after and they got the golden ticket from AD. They got the master password. They could control anything, everything in that environment. It was crazy in the fact that we changed a bunch of passwords that night, and we were all like, "Wait, why is everything changing back?" That's because they had the master password. Yes.
Yeah, we are always talking about breaches in the US. But I really have a hard time believing we're not going the other way as well.
Oh, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that everybody keeps telling me about, and I keep talking about these stories about, hey, we're going to go to face, biometrics, MFA, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, it helps. It's really knocked it down. But, you know, it's like my mother-in-law. Have you changed your password on AOL lately? Well, why would I do that, Dan? Well, how long have you had it? 15 years? There's a problem here. And you've been in 10 breach reports. And that's the thing, is that I would say that things are shifting.
Right, what I mean, other way, we're looking outside the country as well.
Oh, yeah.
Each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
That's intelligent.
well, if you look at intelligence this day, like, one of the things that I found interesting, and as a matter of fact, I was just listening about the fact that you guys already remember the Citigram, the selfies, the sofa, and all that kind of good stuff. That was one of the things that they were talking about too, is on the passwords themselves. That they weren't changing those passwords. And this was a software company, a security software company, and they weren't changing their passwords. And even though they got in and they infiltrated and actually got to the update source and was able to actually spread their malware through the update service that they provided, it's still all because of a phish in the password. So yeah, it's critical. You guys got to change your passwords. I don't care if that's something that you've got to do. And I'll tell you right now, that incident I was describing to you where they actually got the master, once we got everything cleaned up and we actually built a brand new network for them, and they actually started to change their passwords, they audited their passwords, they forced people to change that had simple passwords. My favorite still is Broncos 1967. But those don't work. You got to be creative. You got to be alone. You got to use a password keeper. You have to change the culture, change the habit, change your passwords. So
What's the frequency of changes?
it depends on really what you want to do. I mean, I tell everybody 90 days. I also tell companies too that are critical, like here at DFW, Eric and I have this ongoing conversation about, you know, some of the critical stuff that we've got going on for the government should be done every 60 days. You know, that's just what it should be. And also too, if you're working on systems that you feel like are going to be on the internet or being internet faced, 30 days, just constantly until it gets to a point where you can get it into a 90-day cycle or whatever you decide is your governance. But it's, I mean, I always laugh when I hear these vulnerabilities when people say, hey, we're scanning, we're finding this. If this is on your machine, just consider yourself breached. So the more you change, the more rose bushes you put in front of the people, the better it will be. Because I'll tell you right now, 16-year-olds don't like to mess with MFA and all those pieces. It's a nation state. It's people who know what they're doing. They'll go after it. But if you can eliminate 3/4 of those people and focus just on the nation, you're that much farther ahead. All right. This is something new for me. Eric said I should try this. So I actually have this set up. But one of the questions I want to ask is, how often do you review your patch schedule and the KPIs for your patching? So if you guys want to use the QR code and we'll walk through this.
I don't trust that here.
Yeah, you can trust it. Trust me. Trust me.
Clicking on it.
Me and my wife have gone back and forth. She yelled and screamed at me. She's like, I can't believe you're doing this. You yell at me when I'm on the screen. And I'm like, hey, Eric said I should try it. I'm trying to broaden my horizons. So there you go. Sure. If y'all want to get your phones out and give it a try.
I think we're all getting happy.
Yes. And I'm all taking your Master American Express card numbers.
Good. You can have it.
Yeah. That's you guys are pretty much hitting on those two right there. You're basically, yeah, it's pretty normal. Weekly. Oh, great. Whoever did the weekly, I love you. Man, thank you.
It's because I want the new features, not the package.
You're my hero.
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
I always laughed too when Eric showed me this. And he was telling me I needed to do this, and he was doing it. We were actually talking to innovation folks, and we did this. He did this and showed it to me. And then when Maria was saying, "Hey, we should do this," Eric's like, "Trying to do this." I was like, "Great, thanks." All right. Hey, at least you guys. I would tell you that the 6 months, quarterly, monthly is. Yeah, I agree. You should be doing it. That's when you're really mature in your program and you're going about 1,000 miles an hour. Yes, I agree. But this is kind of where you want to be, quarterly and every 6 months. Because from an OT, IoT idea, remember it's firmware that you're updating. You aren't in charge of that firmware. The company that you're working with is in charge of that. Now, I'm going to tell you though, on your workstations and servers and stuff like that, yes, I would tell you. And if you're internet facing, where's daily on here? Because if you're internet facing, you should actually be looking at this like from a daily standpoint. But it's something that you should be looking at. So, all right, check your visibility. I love this. I love this quote. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. Yes. So I'm not going to talk anything. Well, I am going to talk about this one, but let me talk about this one. Okay. Got called into an incident at an oil refinery in the great state of Wyoming. Does everybody like Wyoming? I love Wyoming. There's nobody out there. It's awesome. And it's great because there's no connectivity for cell phones or anything like that. It's awesome. That's just me. Sorry. So I got called into this refinery and we all were getting deployed, and it was lovely March and it was still snowing. It was cold. And we're sitting there and I'm watching, and they're making, it was crazy about this refinery was the fact that they were making about 52,000 barrels of gas, 40,000 barrels of diesel, and they were also supplying 2 of the military bases with jet fuel. So that was approximately close to about 80,000 barrels they were giving to the military. It was crazy. And it was out in the middle of Wyoming. That's what really got to me, that this thing was cranking that much and pushing it to all these different places. So anyway, got in there, and me and the team were walking in, and what was fun, the best thing about it was that the guy that I met at the door said, "Okay, come here, I'm going to show you something. Look at that screen. It says we're supposed to email and give them money." Like, are you kidding? And they're like, "Yeah, and by the way, it's on all these systems on this side of the refinery." I'm like, "You guys just got ransomed." I said, "Did it hit your control room?" And they go, "No, it didn't hit the control room." I'm like, "Thank God." Okay, we're going to segment this. We're going to pull this stuff out. We did all these different things. We cleaned up the machines. And we were sitting there and we were like, "We're done. This is great." That machine over there in the corner got infected again. So we spent 12.5 hours cleaning these systems, and then suddenly we got reinfected. You want to know why? It's a server. It's log4j. Does that ring any bells? Okay. So in their server room, which was off to the side of the refinery, there was a server that had log4j, and that was how they were getting in. They had also found another server that they were doing mining on. They had 2 ways in. So we fixed the log4j, shut everything down, but then we started scanning for patches and seeing kind of, hey, what are they doing? Well, then that's when we found the mining machine. But we found out no machine in that refinery had been patched. Never, ever, ever, ever. No one ever. At the end, when we started this little project with these people, in the end, I patched 475,000 patches to this refinery, just to bring them to baseline, to get them where they were running. That was Microsoft Windows, Adobe, a bunch of other applications. So there was Adobe, a lot of Adobe. There was, Snagit, that was the other big one. Snagit was out there. But it's important, and what I'm getting at is, even if you're not looking at this once, if you're only looking at this once a year, that's great, but you got to keep with it. And that's why I'm rolling into AI, because everybody's talked about Claude yet. Anthropic, sorry. Every day, exactly. And I agree with them. I agree with them. Because bad people, I hate to tell you all this, but bad people are faster than us. And they're going to use AI, and they're going to use it to automate. Because you know what? They're already doing it. They're already running scripts. They're already automating their kills. They're automating how they get into the systems. They're automating all that stuff. They have 15-year-old people sitting over there making $1,000 a day to sit and hit a button to keep hitting a script to try and get in. They're doing it, and they're trying to find. And especially with the IoT, OT devices, they've gotten better. They have their own SMB share, or they have their own application, or their own web browser, or they have any of these pieces. You just broaden that stroke, and now you've given that much more surface for people to attack. So AI is very important. If they're going to use it, we need to use it. We need to figure out what they're looking at so that we can defend against it. So 475,000 patches. It's crazy, isn't it? Okay. How confident are you all with your current incident response plan? I'm gonna get a cough drop real quick while you guys are doing this. I think that sounds good on your recording, doesn't it? All that moving around.
By the way, just almost every college just got hacked via their campus management system just today. Has everybody seen that yet?
No, it's fine.
At OU?
No, nationwide.
Oh, nationwide?
Yeah.
It was nationwide. Oh, yeah, my daughter goes to OU.
What does Canvas do?
It's the back-end management system
For what?
for colleges, for grades and all kinds of stuff.
Grades and testing.
Yep.
So if it's been hacked, the grades are in jeopardy?
My 20-something-year-old kids are saying, hey, we can't finish our stuff.
I haven't heard much. I heard a little bit on Twitter about it, but I haven't got all the particulars yet. I'm just still, it amazes me. It just amazes me how smart they are. And don't take this the wrong way. I mean, now I feel like I'm standing up here and someone's gonna put this on Twitter when I say this, but you know, they're smart. These are very smart individuals, and they're very smart at what they do. And they are extremely quick. They learn fast. And when you have a government that's given them a load of money to go off and figure this stuff out, you know, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's amazing to me. I think in my top 10 is the Charles Borowski script. It was one of the scripts we ran across at that oil refinery, because I remember them coming in the office and saying, hey, does anybody know who makes charlesborowski.exe? And we were all like, what are you talking about? And then we did a search on it, found out that it was something that the Iranians were using. And so we started to kind of break it down and reverse engineer it. The crazy thing about it was the script would actually take off and run. So when you were on the keyboard, it would take off and start running and go start looking for other shares. It would look for these certain executables it was trying to figure out. And then when you stopped, it stopped. And then you'd start working again and you'd do a bunch of stuff and you'd be doing some other stuff. And then you'd start seeing all the app jobs start to build on the machine. And then when you stopped, it stopped. I mean, that's pretty good coding that they put into that. They have that ability to control and know when you're on the keyboard and when you're not. So they're amazing. So, okay. So 33% of you feel like you're current. Why do you feel like you're current? Just curious. I'm glad that there's 33% of you that have it. I thought you all get a prize, but why do you guys feel that you're, what's that 33% that you're looking at?
I feel confident because you work for DFW. I'm hoping.
Stop. Stop me. Okay, let me say my story first, and then you guys will understand why I'm asking this question. So I have a friend of mine, and him and I kind of started at the same time in security. Good old Ron Frederick from Kudelski. Sorry, Jennifer. He called me up one night and said, dude, I'm going to jail. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to jail. I know I'm going to jail. And I'm like, why are you going to jail? He's like, I was scanning this bank. They hired me, they wanted a pen test, so I went after them hard. I was using Nessus, and I had an admin privileges, I had super user privileges, I had 3 bad IDs that I could use that could get me anywhere. And I'm gonna scan with those. And he went after that poor bank. That bank was getting obliterated. And so I'm like, dude, I don't understand why you're going to jail. It's just sounds like you're just doing a hard scan, trying to figure out the vulnerabilities and which way you're going to actually get in and do a pen test. He goes, well, there's 40 cop cars around the bank. And he's like, well, what? Goes, yeah, there's 40 cop cars. The FBI is at the bank. And I'm like, okay, what did you do? He goes, well, I guess I kind of scanned everything. And I mean, wait a minute. Did you scan all the OT devices? And he goes, yeah, I also scanned the safe. And I'm like, you're not supposed to do that because those little guys are going to tip over because you're probably hitting them so hard, they do a DDoS attack and they're just going to die. Well, yeah. So every door, every window, the safe, the door to the downstairs, the back door, were all open. And the only reason why he figured it out was because there was this guy doing cleaning and he walked up and said, why is the door open? I don't understand. Why is the safe open? He thought it was being robbed and picked the phone, called the cops. And so Ron thought he was going to basically go because they were like calling and saying, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm like, well, we're doing this pen test. And so they called Ron and said, hey, did you by chance open up any doors? Oh, nothing. Well, yeah, I could have, since I did every IP address. Yeah, I could have. And he goes, well, bank's open. Everything's open. So why I'm going down this path with this IR plan is that the bank didn't have one. The bank didn't know what to do. So, when the guy called, the cleaning guy called, and the cops all showed up with the cops too, they called the president of the bank. The bank guy, president goes, I don't know, you guys owe the police, you figure it out. And they're like, oh, it's your bank, you figure it out. And so, they're standing outside thinking that there's 40 guys in masks in there robbing the place, when it's just the cleaning guy with the mop going, hey, do I do it tonight or do I go home? What do I do here? And when they finally walked into the bank and realized nobody was here, they were like, what's going on? Once again, no plan. So they ended up, what they did was Ron pulled everything back from his scans, turned everything off. Bank president went through, locked everything back up. but it was, it was learning that we took away from that, and the fact that, if we're going to scan everything, especially OT and IoT devices, got to be careful. But they started to build a plan, and they started to talk about, okay, if we're going to get pin tests again, we're going to make our pin tests do this or look at this, and if we're scanning in a segment, you can scan this, 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 and this. But if you're going to scan this, that's got to be a different type of scan. So they built their plan from that, and from there it actually became corporate. And Bank of America actually still uses part of that, the IR plan, and goes from that standpoint. But that's the reason why it's important to review your IR plan. The IR plan should be a living document, and that's what I always tell everybody. Don't make. I walked into this one business, and this guy, I asked him for the IR plan, and he went over to this box. And he picked the box up, brought it back over to me, and put it down and said, "There's our plan." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." And I opened it up, and I figured out there was about 6 reams of paper, because there was about 7 notebooks in there. And it was just full of, okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. Okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, do you guys ever review this and look at it? And they're like, no, we don't. So review your plan. Make it basic. Make it simple. I'm going to tell you right now, the best plans are, tell me, give me a framework of how we're going to recover, phone numbers, and also who do you contact from a media and social media and some type of communication plan as well. So I know it's 7, going too fast. Or am I okay? Everybody okay? Okay. Because basically I'm going to kind of pull everything here together, plus a couple other things I want to talk about with DFW. But basically, this is the reason why I always tell everybody, how many people in here ride motorcycles? You know what the line is, right?
With the line, which line?
This line. The best, you've either fallen or you haven't. So when I started riding when I was 11, that was my dad's always telling me the same thing. He's like, dude, you're going to fall. Well, actually, my dad didn't say dude, but he actually told me it was his favorite nickname. I'm not going to tell you in public here because it's not a nice thing, but bottom line, you're going to fall one day, so figure out how to fall. So, when I learned to ride, I learned to let the bike go or to fall and get it away from me so it wouldn't hurt myself. And as I got up to street bikes on the road ridiculously fast before my wife got pregnant, I learned how to let go, wear leathers, helmets, and all that stuff. But you're gonna be, one day you're gonna have an incident. Bottom line, just like riding a motorcycle. You're either riding or you're falling, one of the two. So let's be prepared. So once again, I'm not gonna read through all this stuff. We've already talked about review your IR plan and all that kind of stuff, but there are 2 things I want to focus on: consult, communicate, clean, and check. Okay. What does that mean? So was in an incident in the great city of New York City, and in about 30 days, we actually got them back up and running. It was a wonderful, exciting adventure. I personally am not a big New York City kind of guy. I kind of like being able to spread out. We don't like being swooshed. But we were able to clean this up for the lovely Pepsi company. We got everything running, and everything was great. Life was good. Everything was running. We kind of forgot to check, and 20 days later we got hit again because they had made a back door, and we didn't scan for the back door. We didn't look for the visibility. We didn't know. We were learning. We were trying to figure these pieces out. So when I say consult, communicate, clean, check, and okay, by the way, and check again, yeah, just realize that if something's going to happen and you do get into an incident, they probably have some type of back door. You got to check for it. You got to find it. You got to go look for it. You talk to Mandiant, you talk to Trusted Set, you talk to Black Hills Security, you talk to any of those people. They're going to look at you and say, hey, we're going to come in, we'll get you all cleaned up, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Because they know in 2 weeks, they're going to try again. So just think about that. Have that in the back of your brain. So when you do fall, and you get everything cleaned up, check. Communicate, clean it all up, patch. Learn and leverage a good incident. Corporate America, I love it. So it was interesting that when I started at DFW, It was when Kelly was working, and just want to let you know. Kelly used to tell me all the time, he's like, hey, don't worry about it. DFW will just buy it. So if you get a tool, they'll buy it. Just let's figure it out, we'll buy it. I'm like, I don't want to buy it. I want to figure out what we're doing and have a good use case so that we can figure out and use our dollars wisely and go from there. Okay, here's the flip side. Target. Target had, like I told you before, had 5 different antiviruses, didn't patch, didn't do any of this stuff. The board basically went back to Mandy and walked in and took out a blank check and said, go fix my patching, go fix my antivirus, and make my company safe. Here's your blank check. Have a nice day. So Target actually, when I was helping them for the couple weeks before we went back to PepsiCo, we brought in Symantec, and it was kind of funny because I was used to taking about a month, 2 months, because you got to go through procurement and you got to get approval and everybody's got to sign and you got to have everybody's email, you got to have a baby, you got to have a sheep, you got to have some blood. We literally talked to Symantec on one day, and the second day we had binaries and we were deploying them across the board. The refinery, once again, here's a blank check. When I told them that they had about 300,000 vulnerabilities, the first thing out of their mouth was, what are you going to buy? And I said, we're going to buy SCCM, and I'm bringing in a consultant. We're going to get it set up. We're going to train, and we're going to get everybody lined up. And this is how we're going to do this going forward. A good incident is a great way to leverage and get some cash. I know that sounds wrong, but in this environment, in these 4 walls here, I'm looking at all of you and saying, don't waste it. If there's something you guys really need, or there's something that you want to do and it's going to help protect the business, or it's something that you've been standing up and pontificating about, that this is what I want, now's your chance. So just remember that. Okay. Last 2 things. One of the things I wanted to talk about, what's really impressed me about DFW was the IOC. If you all are driving down the road, heading south out of the airport, if you look off to the right, you'll see our fire and our police, and there's a couple other buildings over there. But in the middle of all of it is the IOC. And it's a building that's supposed to withstand an E5 tornado. It's supposed to be the safest place on earth. Okay, what's really cool about it is everything comes in there. And they actually run the operations and incidents out of that shop. So if you get caught in an elevator at DFW, it goes to that place. If one of you decide to go 75 miles an hour down International Boulevard and then also do a drag race on something, I'm not saying anything. Hey, by the way, your mom, see her when she does the gears. I
think it's 5 tickets later. I'm guessing.
Any of those tickets or any of those response actually goes through the IOC. I think it's pretty amazing. It's just interesting to see how different corporations and different people respond to stuff. At DFW, I think that they do a great job of basically knowing stuff that's going on. I really enjoyed it too during the snow this year. So everybody was all having a moment. Oh, it's going to snow. Oh. They were asking people if they had commercial license to help with the snow removal and all these kinds of different things. And I was like, hey, I can go back to my roots. This is pretty exciting. I can do this. But they actually was talking to Donnie Lumpkin, who is one of the people I work with out of the utilities plant. He actually brought his suitcase and his sleeping bag, and he parked in there. And on this one huge monitor, they had the temperature. And when the temperature dropped below freezing, everybody was in that building until that temperature moved above this number. And they all stayed there. They all made sure the runways were clear. They made sure all the jetways were clear. They went into mode and moved. And it was all, once again, out of the IOC. So it's pretty cool. It's one of those places, if you ever get a chance to go into, from a geek standpoint, the monitors are the size of the walls. And I was like, I want one of these in my house. But my wife will not let me have it. Anyway, it's cool. It's really cool. And then the last thing here, just to kind of leave this with everybody, check your damn ego. We do this for a living. And when you get a team that puts their ego to the side and puts their feelings to the side and focuses on a problem, and fixes it and gets things moving forward. It's the most amazing thing in the world. Out of my career, I've only had that happen 4 times. That we all just kind of put everything aside. We focused, we did what we needed to do, and we got it going. Egos kill things. As I said above here, in your leverage a good incident, that's when that ego basically will kill that. Because you'll have people that will then suddenly start fighting. They'll be looking, trying to make their mound, their kingdom, all this stuff out there. It's not worth it, people. But at the same time, when you check your ego, you can learn, and you get to know people, and everybody in this room, in the world, everywhere, anywhere in technology, we all have stuff we can offer. We all have the ability to fix. We have the ability to think, which sometimes kind of scares me, but you're giving me hope with the younger generation. But, you know, it's amazing. It really is truly amazing. So just remember, check your damn ego. You'll be amazed at what you can learn. All right, that's all I got. Oh, and by the way, here's a shameless plug. If you guys really want to learn more about incidents, go listen to that podcast. Jack Resider is amazing. He works on a bunch of different type of incidents and stuff like that. You kind of learn a bunch of stuff. But just a plug there. I love that podcast. Anyway, questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to say?
Yeah, Dan, how long have you actually been at DFW now?
8 months, 3 days.
Okay. When you walked in the door, first thing you did was analyze everything that's out there.
First thing when I walked in the door was try to figure out what the bathroom was. And then I also figured out who were all the players politically. Okay. Then I also figured out what were the goals? What was everybody trying to do? Because I actually walked into a new position. This was something that got created because Eric had all these different pieces, and he had incident response, and he had operations, and he had all these, and he had also documentation and some other things in there. What I mean about documentation, folks, every piece of paper that's done in DFW either gets fished, saved, or put, but literally all that stuff gets archived somewhere. There's a whole department that does that. And Eric works on that piece. So anyway, this was new. And the first, well, actually, there's a second thing that happened on the second day. Eric literally looked at me and went, I have no idea. Bless you. I had no idea about IoT or OT. I didn't even know what to do with this stuff. So it's all yours. Have a nice day. So
the airport has been open since 1975, right?
yes.
And you've walked into, sounds like a mess.
Oh yeah, it's a mess, but it's a good mess.
Okay.
And let me tell you why it's good. Is one thing is the people. People are amazing. They'll do anything for you. Some of them won't listen, but Maria listens. But there's some other people, and that's par for the course when you walk into a place that's been around for 50 years. There's going to be people there that are entrenched, and it is what it is. I mean, my whole career, I've always ran into people that are like, this is how we do it, and this is the way we're going to do it. And then when a ransomware comes around and they end up paying $25 million, then their mind changes. And they're kind of like, oh, maybe we should think about this different. But I know where you're going. That's the reason why, once again, kind of going back to my first thing about visibility, that's been the one big thing I've been working on. And that's the reason why I look at Donnie Lumpkin, who is the guy that runs the utilities plant. Him and I have been buddies because I literally find something. Donnie, what is this? I mean, I know what it is. I know it's a thermometer, and I know that it's collecting data at every 15-second milliseconds, and I know that it's probably somewhere in the water system, but is that what this is? Is this what you're? And then he's like, yes, that's what it is. Or I'll find an air handler out somewhere, and I'm like, this is yours. This belongs in your Delta system. He's like, where the hell did it come from? I don't know, but I found it, so here you go.
What has that been your biggest challenge? Is identifying all these different objects?
Well, it is.
Politics.
Oh, politics, number one.
That's number one. Okay.
It's always number one. Every place I go, it's politics. That's why I was saying, hey, check your ego. You know, politics are amazing to me because I wonder sometimes if we all work for a living, or do we all just are little people trying to become president of the United States? Because I mean, it's, you know, wherever I go or whatever I've been in, you know, I walk in like the incident I was telling you. I walked in and said, hey, turn this server off. We got to get this off. Well, the reason why we couldn't turn it off was not only did we impact the business, but then I later found out the vice president that owned that system was getting pushback from the board to replace and improve that system. And so he's telling all his people down the thing, don't turn it off because I want to keep my job. I don't want to be fired. I don't want to lose. I can't. I got to pay for my boat and my mistress and my family. So, you know, I got all these things I got to pay for in that order too. So, you know, brother. And I'm standing over here going, the screen says $50 million. I think I had $10 in my pocket. My wife took everything else. It's 50 million. And he's like, no. But in the end, what happened was, not only did he get fired, but the president got fired, the vice president got fired, the CISO got fired, the senior engineering person got fired. Oh, and did I tell you that the whole board got dismissed? Because they all knew this. And they had 4 pen tests that told them, you're going to get hit right here. So it's always politics.
Right, I agree.
So Dan, on one of your first slides, you showed that there was 84 million passengers that go through DFW every year. What's the first thing they do when they hit DFW? They get on our guest Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So how are you keeping our operations safe behind the scenes?
I call it innovation and ask them what
Wow.
I do. So I'm not going to give away all the trade secrets, but what I'm going to say is segmentation is your friend. Make sure your networks are segmented. Make sure that pieces are split, that they're not connected, that they're not touching, that there's no bridge or gap between the two. So the network that is happening at DFW, yes, it is part of our network, but in actuality, it's not.
Air gap.
I'm neither going to confirm or deny. Or wait a minute, what's the other one? I'm going to take the 5th. Yeah, there you go. I'll take the 5th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's things that we put in place. There's firewalls that are in place. There are things there that break and actually protect. And that's the other thing too, especially in the OT world when I'm trying to push forward at DFW is that if you look at the Purdue model, which is one of the frameworks, I think you're all familiar with if I say Purdue, even NIST 800, one of the first things that they say is, here you got your networks. Put all your critical OT devices over here, put a DMZ here, and your business network here, and the two shall never touch. And then there's these people over here that want data, because data is everything, and they want it from these sensors over here, and then I want this, and I want that. And you got to build bridges in between, but you got to make sure those bridges are broke. So that's one of the things that DFW I'm pushing forward is starting to build out that extra network so that if it's an OT device that's controlling, AKA a door, a valve, a gateway, any of that stuff, it all needs to sit over here on this network away from the rest of the network. Once again, like I said earlier, how many rose bushes can I put in between so that I'm protecting that network? That's one of the ways you can do it. Make sense? Excellent. All right, what else? You guys are doing a good job. Come on.
What about the area of just employees' knowledge, employees that know passwords for getting tricked out of them and things like that? What kinds of tactics are best to prevent those things?
As much things you can put into service accounts, change those service accounts 30, 60 days. That's one thing. The other thing on passwords too, and I know this is going to sound really bad when I say this, and you're probably going to sit in your chair and go, shut up. When a person leaves a company, automatically change all the passwords. Automatically. But you can also use things like CyberArk. If you feel like that system is that critical, put it in there because CyberArk is going to automatically, every time you log in, it's going to change that password. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do too is that you can delete people's profiles. Oh my gosh, I don't know how many places I've walked into and I go look in the profiles and I'm like, why is there 35,000 profiles here in this folder? Just in case somebody comes back, we just pull the profile back. No, delete it, get rid of them. And by the way, I have been on an incident where somebody has gone in and found that restored an ID, upped its rights, and then started moving around. And that was actually one of my other favorite ones because we were all sitting in the meeting and my cohort goes, can somebody tell me what M Field, who's M Field? And the admin was sitting, he started typing and he goes, oh, he quit like 6 months ago. And I'm like, did you guys hire him back? Nope. Okay, kill it. So it happens. But so those are some of the tactics. I'm going to also tell you too, if you can get in front of some of those things that are being built and start putting some of those tactics in front of it, it will help you in the long run. So it's that, once again, kind of go back and have that communication and talking to people that you can do to kind of get in front of these projects to start telling people and making them think. Because most developers and most application folks, but most application development people are, we got to get in, we got to get up, we got to get running. Let's go. If you can get in front of that and kind of slow them down a little bit and make them think, usually you can solve those kind of things.
Hey, Dan, how do you manage your administrative rights and your privileges such that one of your admins doesn't create a fictional employee that you don't know about? Now Jane Doe's got a super user privileges.
The lovely insider threat. Side note, the reason why I do this is my son's autistic and he STEMs, smart kid, majorly smart. But I love being around autistic people because it's always amazing to me what they do to get their energy out. This one gentleman that I worked with, he was on the other side of the spectrum. He was basically, his brain was literally a programmer. The dude thought in code, could talk in code, could write it. Most amazing person I've ever met. We had him put in the corner because that's what he did well. But we always all knew when we walked by his desk and he had something he couldn't figure out, because he'd sit there like this. And because we all knew, oh, he's thinking, don't talk to him because he's trying to figure out how to fix the problem. So love him. Anyway, I carry this because the guys I still work with will all kind of look at each other and go, so what are you working on? But anyway, I'll tell you, Danny, one of the things that I'm trying to work with Eric is we got to start working on having some break glass IDs and passwords. Nobody should have admin, super admin. Only a couple people should have super admin, because that's going to help solve some of that pieces. But the other thing too, there's a bunch of applications out there that, and even CyberArk does it, and I'm picking on it because I've been working on it a lot lately. But CyberArk has a function in there where you can control that, and you can check out admin, but it only will last like for 5 hours or 4 hours, and then it dies. So it's a combination of governance. Let's get the right paperwork in place. Then it's also to starting to educate people and tell them, but then you got to bring in that tool that will then help enforce that policy. Because I know where you're coming from. I've seen it multiple times where somebody will get that ID and then they hold it over here and put it in their pocket. And then one day they jump in there and run sysadmin and boom, everything's fixed. Can't do that. Got to control that because it has too much power. There's too many things it could do. But that's the best way I've seen it done, is actually governance, policy, and having the tool to enforce it. There's a couple other tools out there. I'm pretty sure Jennifer can sell you a couple of them. But there is a bunch of, there's some good stuff out there that has that ability to check in, check out, and then control how that works. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it's hard because you are now taking something away from a person that might need it to actually do their job. But on the flip side, having that control of that ID and then basically knowing who does what with it is probably going to save you in the long run. So it's more of a sales job of, in the long run, this isn't going to help us. In the beginning, everybody's going to bitch and moan about it. But in the long term, it's going to save you. And at DFW, we've got a long road to get there because we have to change some fundamentals within the organization around that. That's all I'm going to say. All right, next.
One last question. So a little bit about me. I do have, I was a IT governance compliance, and I was gonna go more into detail from the previous one. One thing that, I noticed was that in order to make sure that nobody has that sort of super admin, or anything like that, is to make sure that they don't have the same passwords. They don't have, they only have a certain, let's say, not, certain things that they can do.
Right. Yes.
It's the privilege.
Profiles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
SAP would do profiles.
Exactly. The refinery that I was telling you about, the refinery there, they had 2 forest admins that did everything. And that was everything to do with, I forgot what applications they had, but the applications, they set the same password as the forest. You know, they did all these things with the forest. I mean, we were standing there going, what application doesn't have this password? And so for the first 6 months while we were working through that project, we actually ended up doing what you're talking about. We actually split. This guy had this password and this guy over here had this password.
Yeah, and another thing was, because of my role, I also worked with a bunch of banks. And one thing that I noticed was that for the standard for both NIST and FFIC, governance for the banks, was that they had to change the passwords at least every 60 days was the best. And if not, then we would, I also did risk assessments and that would be considered high. But another thing was that we have to make sure that there were certain key lengths for admin. I think it was about 24 characters was the certain key length for admins, and everyone else was about 12 to 15 characters.
Yeah, and that's once again going back to the policy of where I can tell you that at the bank, that was one of the things Ron and I actually helped Ron with, was the fact that when we made their password policy, if you were just a normal person or basically a normal user, we were saying 8 to 12. But if you were an admin, 12 to 15. But then we actually had a mechanism that we put on top of NT that actually tested for that. So we had policies that set in there. So if you were this person and you had this kind of privilege, then the application was expecting that many characters. I'm trying to remember the name of the application, but we just layered it on top. It used to irritate the hell. I loved it because people would come in, you're making me type 16, and you pull up policy and go, well, the board approved it, and right here it says you're supposed to do that many, and then they're like, okay, fine. And so yeah, it's all those kind of things.
And also clean desk walkthroughs, because a lot of people really love to write down their passwords and everything. And so we have to do that a lot. I remember one time there was a bunch of sticky notes and on one's computer, and it had all of their passwords, meetings.
But you know, at Target, they had a team that went through every store and headquarters and every place with a trash can, and that's all they did. Walk through, took all the stickies off people's monitors. 4 weeks. And they flew these people to all these different stores and did that so that nobody could get or look or see. Because well, it still makes me laugh too. I'll walk into some places. I forgot where I was there at DFW. I walked in and I'm like, and the gentleman locked his thing and it was from security. Look, I locked my desktop. Bad man. And then I just sat right down, opened up his desktop, went up to Paul's email address and said, "Dear Paul, have I told you how much I love your eyes? I think your eyes are amazing. I would really like a chance to go to lunch with you. Can you here's my phone number. Can you give me yours? Love." I forgot who it was. And I just left it open and walked away. And then that person called me and said, "How'd you get in?" "Well, your password was right on top of your monitor." So.
And
What is your heartburn level on quantum computing?
Do I have heartburn? Okay, this kind of goes back to the AI thing for me. Everybody's in my family, everybody's asked me if I'm not going to have a job anymore. And my response always is, "Oh no, it's going to give me more jobs," because, AI is going to, everybody's been sold that we can, automate everything and we can do all this stuff. What people forget is that it's just another application. And basically you're picking up data, dropping it in there, and then you say, "Go sort this, go do this, make me a presentation," or "Go to Napkin and make a nice graphic for me." Well, and then somebody's gonna say, how come everybody's payroll check is out on the internet? Well, you put it into AI. What do you expect?
Quantum though is gonna be different.
Quantum cryptography and keys and whatnot.
It is, but you know, okay, then I'm gonna come back to you and say, back in 1995, I stuck 15 USB modems together and plugged it into the AIX system so that voter registration at Collin County could happen. And everybody told me that, oh my God, you're opening up every hole in the world because everybody's going to dial in and we're going to be, it's horrible. No, don't do that. Well, okay, that's how we got everybody connected. 2 years later, it all went to the internet. We got rid of the modems and we started using them. We had a 2210 router sitting in McKinney that was connecting to all these places, and we were using the internet to actually make those connections. It's coming, folks. So let's start talking about it. And what are we going to do about it? And how are we going to handle this? And how is it going to affect? And how are we going to protect ourselves?
So last time I checked on NIST, NIST recommends that they move all encryption algorithms to post-quantum encryption by 2035.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very.
Yeah.
The number one thing is still social engineering.
Yeah, but they're migrating the most portable systems first to post-quantum.
And so we're going back to the same thing. Let's think about how we want to do it. How do we want to do it safely? What do you think is going to happen? But you know what? The other thing too, and the other thing I'm going to tell you is that there's a lot of smart people out there. Like I said before, Black Hills, Security Sec, Trusted Sec, all those people. I'll tell you, that's been the one thing, and I'm actually trying to do this at DFW, but when I was at Sinclair Oil, I had a budget just for pen testing. And so we would set something up and we would do something, and then I'd call them up and say, all right, go see if you can get into it. Have a nice day. Click. And then these guys would show up and they'd be like, okay, we got in, we did this, this, and this. Okay, so how are we going to fix this? How are we going to protect it? And so then we would change things and move around. So pen testing has got to be part of your whole overall program because it's coming, folks. It's going to happen. So let's start working on it. Let's get it taken care of and go from there. I mean, quantum's going to be great. Probably by then it'll be able to do the laundry.
Can you stick around for a little bit?
Sure.
Just to answer some one-on-one questions.
Yeah, no
Okay,
problem.
all right. Let's give them a hand, guys.
Thank you.